Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played recently, which was one of the most incredible comeback games that I've played in a long time. I ended up getting the losing position out of the opening, where I had to sacrifice 2 pawns to go for some activity, and I ended up managing to get a very nice position out of it. Either way, let's get into the game. I started the game with d4, my opponent goes knight to f6, and I play the move bishop to g5 after some thought. Oh, by the way, before we begin, the ratings you see are USCF ratings. They're around 400 to 500 points lower than chess.com, and the time control here was 60 minutes with delay 5 for both sides. Either way, bishop to g5 is a move that I've been playing for a decent bit of time. I know a lot of theory in it, and a thing that I like to do against my opponent here, I've played him a couple of times, I like to get into some very, very complicated games where most of the time I like to get into stuff where both of us don't know theory, and I knew that my opponent had prepped against bishop f4 because this is what I normally play, which is of course the London system, and I didn't want to get into those lines. So bishop to g5, my opponent played d5, which is a particularly boring line of this opening, in the way that I usually play, which is bishop takes f6, e takes f6, and then you just play for e3, g3, bishop g2, knight e2, knight d2, c4, and knight f3. And what normally happens in these positions is that black ends up with an isolated queen's pawn, but most of the time they just end in a draw, and I didn't want that. So I decided to instead go for something a little bit more intense, something that I personally didn't know, and I played the move knight to d2, which is something that I'd never played before, not online, not over the board, nothing. And already on move 3, both of us were on our own, and both of us were thinking, and we had to play chess. My opponent goes c5 after a long thought. Not too long of a thought, a decent bit of thought, like a minute. Clearly he didn't really know the position too well. And after c5, of course I have some options, but I kind of just autopiloted my move because it's just what I kind of figured was the best move. I played the move e3, which just makes sense to me. I'm solidifying my center. After takes, the pawn's not that weak after moves like knight f3, and I don't know, maybe I play c3 as well. I don't know. It seems okay. It seems okay is my point. But after move 4, I realized I had probably gotten too much than I could chew. My opponent thought for a decent amount of time, looked a little confused, and played the move queen to b6. And here, just frankly, my opponent is forking my pawns. Attack on this, and if I play knight to b3, defending both of them, there's simply the move c4, and I would be losing this pawn without much compensation, where you would normally get in this position, you get a decent bit of compensation. But in this position with the knight being on d2 and not being on on c3 where it needs to be in order to get the compensation, it's really bad. This is really, really bad. And so I already start to panic here. And I think of a couple of things. Of course, I calculate the line d takes on c5, but I kind of just decided against it because after this move, I thought, why these pawns? I don't like this at all. I have to probably sack a pawn now and play normal chess, but if we're looking at this position just objectively speaking, black is going to get pretty normal play. Okay, my opponent probably plays knight c6 or something. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit more complicated than I thought. Maybe my opponent plays knight e4, for example, hitting my bishop, hitting the pawn. Now we have to take, knight back to d2, targeting the pawn. Then, I don't know, maybe knight c6 now. Does knight c6 work? Yeah, probably. Knight c6, bishop c4, queen a5, a5, not a4, trying to go back to the d8 square. And at the end of the day, right, if we're looking at this position, to me, it seems that white is just pretty significantly worse because you don't get the normal old Benoni type setup here, because black is able to develop their bishops, and you don't have a nagging pressure of a pawn to prevent his pieces from developing. His next moves are pretty easy. He's going to play h6. He's probably going to defend the pawn. Maybe play bishop to f5. He's going to play queen to d8, maybe queen to c7. Probably not queen to c7 because of bishop here, but queen to d8. And to me, this position just doesn't look pleasant. It doesn't look pleasant for white. simply looks like not something I want to get into. So I just kind of said no to that overall. And there are a couple other lines. I was thinking about bishop takes f6, e takes f6, and then figuring something out. But I didn't really see what this changed. I actually thought this was just a worse version of it for me because I'm opening up his dark squared bishop. In fact, this is okay. But, okay, I was also calculating knight gf3, queen takes b2, but I didn't really believe in this for me because I just thought, okay, if the knight's not on c3, then I don't really get much compensation for the pawn. In fact, I do after move c4, which I looked at, but I didn't really think of it as anything. I just didn't really calculate this. I saw that it was a move, I just didn't look at it. Either way, e3, queen b6, and because of all the things I just told you, I end up thinking for a while, and I played the move rook to b1, which immediately gives black a pretty sizable advantage because, well, I'm sacrificing a pawn. C takes d4, e takes d4, queen takes d4, and in this position, black is up a pawn. But here, what I have to go for is I have to go for activity. I have to go for compensation. I have to try to make my opponent sweat a little bit. And normally, in the opening, when you play gambit like this, I assume that this is now a gambit since I lost the pawn. Not really gambit, but I'm going to try and play it like one. You have to go for activity. Otherwise, you are completely losing because, well, at the end of the day, you're down a pawn, you're down material, and in an endgame, you will lose 10 times out of 10 times. So you have to go for activity. I play knight g to f3. Of course, I'm developing my knight, stopping any checks. There's no checks on this file. And my opponent's queen has to go back. What could be more natural? Queen back to b6. And now I have to think of a plan. There's a couple of moves that I'm looking at always. Of course, what my opponent is going to try to do is they're going to try and solidify the position, trying to get everything working together, and then they're going to like bring the queen back, develop the pieces, play e6, play bishop to e7, castle, and at that point I'm just going to be lost because I don't have any center space and I'm down a pawn. So there's a couple moves that I'm considering. I'm considering bishop to e3 pretty much all the time, going after the queen and maybe trying to put a knight on this square. It doesn't really work right now. Well, there is an idea of bishop to e3, like, so let's say queen to d8, and maybe knight to b3, and you're trying to play, like, knight here, maybe you're trying to play knight to c4, maybe you're trying to play bishop to b5 check. I mean, white has a lot more development than black, but it feels like black is safe, right? It feels like black is always safe, and I don't really see the attack. So, I didn't go for this. The other idea is to, like, just not even caring, like, bishop to d3, which I thought made a little bit of sense, just trying to hold control of this square, trying to stop his bishop from developing. But at the end of the day, I was just looking at this and I couldn't really believe it. Like, my opponent plays h6. What am I going to do? Bishop to e3, queen d8, queen c7. They're probably like this, probably queen d8. E6, bishop d6, castles. I'm not really stopping him from doing what he wants. So I realized that the only way to put meaningful pressure on my opponent is to immediately go for the throat with the move c4, which is the best move. I'm a little bit happy with this move. Point is, if he takes, that allows me to get my pieces into the game. I can play this move. Yes, not as the normal move you play because you're developing a bishop, but actually here knight takes c4 is even better. And after queen here, for example, you play bishop back to d2. Look at your position. White is actually better here simply because white has a lot of development and the queen doesn't really have a good square to go to. The queen only has one square, and that's this square, which isn't really where the queen wants to be. For example, queen goes here, knight d6, open up and attack the queen, check on the king, you win the game, and the queen doesn't have any more squares. So this would be very, very nice for me if he took, but he doesn't take. Him being a strong 1950 over the board, probably been 2000 before, I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing, so he's not going to be playing this move, and he's going to be playing the best move, which I, of course, looked at. Of course, the move that he plays is the move bishop to f5, which to me seems like the best move. Targeting the rook. If the rook moves, this pawn is going to be loose in all positions, and yeah, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. And this is why I go for very drastic measures here. If I wanted to, I could have played rook c1, but I wasn't too sure about this position. For some reason, I was very, very scared about what he could do. For example, he can play d4. Now my rook and my knight are kind of locked out. This move looks nice, but actually after queen to e6, black is just much better. For example, bishop to e2, there's d3, I think. Yeah, d3. Not exactly. It's not, even knight c6 here is even better. It's kind of interesting. Oh, that makes sense. So queen a4 isn't a thing. Yeah, but anyway, this is just kind of Armageddon. Not to mention, I hadn't really calculated him taking the pawn here after rook to c1. Him taking this pawn probably isn't correct after c takes, and like I get some infiltration and like queen a4. But it's scary, and you have to look at it, and I didn't really want to calculate all that, so I didn't. And instead, I just went for something crazy. Instead, I just went for something very crazy, completely based on miscalculation. I end up playing the move c5, which is a little bit of an insane move. And the reason why I played it, is not because I'm good at chess. I don't know how you would get that idea. I'm not good at chess. First of all, very simple. Completely missed this move. We both missed this move. Queen to e6 is just winning on the spot. I don't know how we both missed this move. Bishop here, he just takes the rook. I have no idea how we both missed this move. This is pretty obvious. Luckily for me, he didn't do that. My main idea was that after he takes on c5, which is what he played in the game, I was going to play bishop to e3. This is what I was planning, and I was like, okay, you're gonna play like queen d6. I'm gonna put my rook on the c file, and I'm gonna put my queen to a4. And I mean, maybe I have some play. And if we put that line on the board, let's say bishop to e3, queen d6. I mean, look at this. Like, if we're looking at this objectively, yes, black is significantly better, but you can see that white is starting to put some pressure on him. White is starting to like get something going. Bishop d7. I mean, maybe I have like knight e4. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe queen a4. Right? Like there's a couple things. Every move I make is a mistake, I guess. I don't know. Castles is the best move here. Who knew? Anyway, I realized that after the move bishop to e3, my opponent simply has the move queen c2, and I have no more fun. I'm out of fun. This is basically game over. Because now I'm forced to trade the queens. And after here, bishop to f5, I thought, okay, this is over. Now, with no queens on the board, there is no way that I'm going to be winning this game. After bishop to b5, my opponent simply plays knight b to d7. Little quick thing, this, blender's mate in 1, we're not going to do that. Of course, my opponent wouldn't do it. He would probably play knight b d7. And, yeah, I realized that here I was just losing, so I can't play bishop to e3, and that really threw like a wrench in my plans. So I ended up going for the second best thing. The only thing I could do, of course, if I can't attack the queen that way, I have to play rook c1. So I play rook c1, and yeah, by move 10, the entire position is something extremely dynamic, something that like I have like no experience in, and it's a pretty rough ride that like we're both being subjected to, me and my opponent, because he has to defend this position. It's not all fun and games. Rook to c1, queen back to b6, which is the move I expected, and I end up just playing the move knight to b3 because, okay, at the end of the day, what am I threatening? Bishop takes f6 and queen here could be an idea. Maybe that's too much. Maybe I lose a pawn, so maybe I'm just trying to put a knight on this square. I don't really know. At this point, I'm just kind of desperate for anything because, I mean, look at my position. I'm down 2 pawns, and my opponent's king is about to be very safe after the move knight to c6, which happens in the game. And yeah, this is very rough. Now I uncork my plan. Bishop to e3. I think this is the only move in the position. Bishop to e3 has to be played because if you don't do that, then black is just going to have full control over this square, which is a little bit rough. My opponent will then play the move e6, get the bishop out, castle, and there's not much I can do. For example, if I don't play this, if I play bishop to e2, my opponent will play, first of all, bishop to e2 is a horrendous move. It's very passive. Simply e6. Let's say I keep playing normal moves that aren't bishop to e3. Knight fd4. Let's say that, I guess, I don't know. If he takes it, this isn't that good for him because I get some play on the bishop. But then again, even like bishop to b4 check, king to f1, while he's my king on the f1 square, bishop to g6, castles is inevitable. Life is very bad. The only move here to try for white is bishop to e3, but I'm not sure I even believe that. Bishop to e3, like, oh, I guess this is a little bit tricky. He has to play queen a5. Yeah, that's a little bit tricky to play, but okay, we're showing if this isn't bishop to e3, and if it's not bishop to e3, there's nothing. It's minus 3. So I play bishop to e3, attack the queen, trying to make the queen move back, and then I'm trying to put something on the d4 square, and maybe I can put some meaningful pressure and do something interesting. After queen to b4, by the way, my idea was simply to play bishop to d2. My opponent would go queen to b6, and I would threaten a repetition. I mean, if I get a draw here, I will absolutely be happy. Absolutely be happy. Down 2 pawns, a draw? Yes. Yes, please. So, he goes queen d8, which made sense to me. And I end up not thinking too hard. I end up just simply playing the move knight f to d4. Okay, I mean, it made some sense. I'm targeting the knight. I'm targeting the bishop. And if he takes my knight, I thought that doesn't seem that smart. First of all, I can play knight to d4 again. Now my knight is actually pretty strong on this square. After bishop to d7, I don't know, maybe I do. I thought I would figure something out. I knew I was lost always, but I gotta try, right? I think this is maybe my best try. So knight f to d4, bishop to d7, and I try to really make him think. And so I played knight c5, which is also very aggressive. I'm targeting the b7 pawn. If he allows me to take it, actually white might be better. It's a very, very complicated position. Let's see, say if he does nothing, knight takes b7. Yeah, this is this is a little bit just tough. A little bit tough for my opponent to argue they have an advantage here, since my knights are actually very, very strong, and even though he's up a pawn, his king is actually getting a little bit too in danger. So after knight c5, my opponent plays queen to a5 check. Play bishop to d2 very quickly, because I know it's the right move. And my opponent goes queen to b6, and for some reason, I just like blank on the right move. I end up doing something a little bit dumb. I just play bishop to e3 without too much thought, simply because I thought, okay, bishop to e3, if you go queen to a5, I get the repetition. I want the repetition. And now there might be some ideas where I can open up against the queen, right? Like something like this. And I don't know, but maybe. So this is kind of what I'm going for. Probably not good, and I'm not too sure why I play bishop to e3. The best move here is knight takes d7, which is very difficult to play. Very, very difficult to play move. Even knight takes d7 and black is significantly better. This isn't like the best thing to do. Of course, taking on d4 is better, but still, like, I mean, look at this position. Look at this position. Yeah, I don't want to play this with white. I think I'm just losing. I have the bishop pair, but the bishop pair is not enough here. 2 pawns are better than the bishop pair. I can take on f8, for example, but then, oh, he doesn't even have to take. The knight is trapped, which plays knight e4. Yeah. Anyway, queen to b6, bishop to e3, and luckily for me, my opponent didn't do anything too crazy, and instead played a move that, sorry. No, the reason why bishop to e3 isn't really that good here is because I realized that in this position I kind of missed something. I missed that the idea of queen to b6 is that after queen to a5, bishop to d2, this is okay, but after queen to b4, bishop to d2, I would be dropping the knight, right? So there's the difference. And I was very, very worried about this move until I realized I had like a secret weapon here. And so he plays queen to b4, thinking that he's probably going to be getting into a very nice position. But luckily for me, I'm not losing on the spot. I have rook to c3, and life is good. Life is good here. It's very, very dangerous here for black. It's very, very dangerous. You start taking pawns, you get rook b3, you get like kind of inflamed on the file here. Like knight takes d7. Here we have like some rook b7, If we're looking at this position very arbitrarily, we have like some moves like this in the future. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. Of course, everything is lost, but you still have to work for it. You still have to work for it. That's the point, which I really want him to do. I really want him to think about the position, because when he thinks, he makes mistakes, and when he makes mistakes, it allows me to win the game. So after rook to c3, my opponent does not take on b2, and instead gives me my chances back. This is the moment. This is the moment. This is a very, very tricky position to play. I've actually got a decent amount of activity here. Look at all my pieces kind of going after his king. The bishop is going to come next. The queen is going to come next. I've got every single piece going over there, and this is hard to play. This is difficult to play. Don't mark my words. This is very, very difficult to play, and he messes up. He plays e5, giving me chances. And now, white is almost better. White is almost better here, because he misses that after e5, I can simply play the move. The point of e5 is, of course, to open up the darts for bishop. Now I can play the move a3, and this is a better version, because after queen takes b2, I thought I could play rook to b3, and I was kind of thinking that he was gonna like sack his queen or something crazy. Like I don't even know. Like I don't know how you would do it. But for some reason, I thought that he was just gonna like sacrifice, because this is a little bit tricky. Queen to a2, the queen is almost trapped. If we're looking at this, knight d3 almost traps the queen. It doesn't, because he always has this move. Yeah, here he can sack the queen. Here he can sack the queen. This is where he can sack the queen, right? And this is like a sample line. It's very, very tricky. So taking on b2 is dangerous. And he believes me. He believes me. He believes that taking on b2 is wrong. In fact, the best move after taking on b2 is knight to b5. Look at this. I'm threatening a fork. Well, not really threatening a fork because my rook is defended, but I'm threatening rook to b3 and then a fork. And for example, my opponent has to play bishop takes c5 only move, bishop takes c5, and has to play the move knight to e4. And this is what he has to do. If he doesn't play this, he's going to lose. Queen here. Sorry, rook to c2. My bad. Queen to b3. Knight to c7. King to d8. Takes. Knight takes c5. Rook takes c5. In fact, white is up material here, but my opponent is going to be able to win the back of the knight. But this is very difficult to see. Very difficult to see over the board, especially when you do not have that much time. And my opponent only had around like 10 minutes at this point. So did I. I had around 10 minutes, which is a decent bit of time, but not enough time to play these moves that are being very, very scary. So my opponent plays queen to a5 in a long think, and I realize here that I have I'm just doing very, very well, because knight takes b7. But at this moment, as I'm finally getting an advantage in the game, there's an issue with the time. My clock has been running the entire game. Of course, everyone's clock has been running the entire game, but the issue is that now my clock is at around 3 minutes, which is not enough time to be able to figure this position out. It might be enough time to figure this position out, and I try my hardest. But my opponent is up on time by around 2 minutes. He's at 5 minutes. I'm at like 3. And after queen to c7, I spent another minute on my next move. Knight takes c6, the only move in the position. And even though I'm winning at this point, he doesn't have enough play. For example, if he takes this, which actually happens in the game, I simply play knight takes e5. I'm opening everything up. If he takes the knight, this one here, like bishop takes c6, this is already game over after bishop to b5, which I saw, by the way. I saw this. You can't take the knight because of the fork, even though it might be like the best move. And you can't take this because the queen is hanging. I saw that move, which is very, very cool. Yeah, so this is very, very tricky for my opponent, but it's also very, very tricky for me, because there's a lot of plot holes here. I'm sorry, not plot holes, potholes that can make me suffer. For example, d4 is one of the moves that I didn't calculate at all, because I thought, well, d4 doesn't make any sense. I simply play knight takes d4, but in fact, it's the best move for my opponent, because after queen takes b7, I have to play a rook to b3, and it's complicated. So luckily for me, none of that happens. Queen takes b7, knight takes e5, Now 2 minutes on the clock. Bishop to d6. I play rook to b3 first. This is the best move, which is a very, very nice move. This move doesn't work. I am, in fact, going to be up material here. If we look at this as a sample line, I calculated this very, very quickly. Bishop takes d1. I simply take on f7, I thought. And yeah, this is pretty bad. The bishop is also hanging. So he can't do that. So he plays queen to c7, and now he's simply going to lose the pawn. Knight takes d7. Whichever way he takes back with, he's going to be losing the pawn or losing something. Queen takes back is automatic. Bishop to b5 wins the game. So he has to take back with the knight, and now I pick up the pawn, and in fact, I've gone from 1 pawn down, we've gone from 2 pawns down to, in fact, I'm now 1 pawn up. In the span of, like, how many moves is that? Like, 6 moves? From move 18 to, move 24? 6 moves? Yeah, we've totally changed the sides. 3 pawns in 6 moves, which is a little bit crazy. And after rook b8, which is another mistake, I'm winning. Completely winning. Which is very, very cool. Rook takes b8, queen takes b8. These are some errors from my analysis earlier on. Bishop to b5 is the best move here, which is very, very tricky to play. I didn't see this. The point is that you're simply pinning the knight, and black has a hard time to move. Black's best move is castles, simply giving up the knight. Tricky to play. I'm not sure I would have played that. I probably wouldn't play that. I don't know. I don't want to play these things here. Queen b5, for example, manages to make everything work. But I simply see a tactic, so I go for the tactic. Bishop takes a7 is a nice deflection tactic, and now I'm up 2 pawns. Now I'm up 2 pawns, and it's over. It's game over. I am completely winning, but at this point, he has a minute and a half, and I have a minute, which is simply not enough time. My opponent gives me desperado. He goes bishop to b4 check. He takes b4, queen takes a7, and I realize that I have another tactic here. I have another tactic. I can play the move bishop to b5, and now I'm going from up 2 pawns to up a knight, because you might think, oh, well, that's stupid. Queen to a1, king to d2. You're losing the rook. But, of course, he gets mated. So we can't do that, which is quite nice. And after bishop to b5, I realized, wait, I'm going to win. This is like one of my best wins ever. My highest win was against like a 1997 or something. So this would be like my second highest win ever. I've never beaten this player before. I've had a couple draws against him before. But this is going to be incredible if I win this game. So my heart is racing, everything is going on, and I have like 50 seconds on the clock versus a minute and a half, and it's terrifying. Queen to a1, king to d2. I feel like I'm going to blunder everything, but I realize that after queen takes b2, king to d3, queen to a3, king to c2, there are no more checks. There are no more checks in the position, and I know that I'm going to win the game. I know for a fact that I'm going to win the game. Castles, and I play the wrong move. You have to take this with the bishop. The point is, the queen is guarding very, very important checks. This square is very, very important. And if I don't take with the bishop, if I do what I did in the game and I take with the queen, now my advantage goes down significantly. And this is a different story. This is a much, much different story, with me being in a bit of a pickle and only with 40 seconds on the clock. Queen to a2 is a miss. A little bit funny. Queen takes b4 is the way to play, but queen to a2, king to d3, queen to b3, and for some reason I could not figure out the way to dodge from the checks, because if I ever bring my queen back, if I run to this square and like I bring my queen back like this, then you have this check, and then you win the bishop, and then it's a draw. Or it might not even be a draw because my opponent is very, very active with the rook. I might even be losing. And I got very scared here. King to e2 is the best move. And after queen to b2, I realized this move was wrong. I realized this move was wrong when I played it. I realized this move was wrong before I played it too. But I couldn't see a better move. And I ended up going with something very, very stupid. I should have just played, if I wanted to, I could have played queen d2. Sorry. No, queen d2 loses the bishop. right? Yeah, check, right? The only move here for white is king to e3. And this is winning. This is the winning line because you don't have any more checks. You go here. I go queen back to d3. Sorry. Oh my god. It's still so complicated. Bishop to d3 only move. My rook is going to come out. You're out of checks here. You can go here, but after king to f3, queen to f6, and queen to f5, my opponent is running out of checks. Queen to e4 here, and I was thinking even just king like e2 or king here, and I just thought, okay, this is probably good. Like he doesn't have any more checks. King to e2 now, yeah. But I didn't see king to e3, and I instead played the move king to f3, which is a huge mistake. King to f3 on the board, and this is very, very bad. Now I realize my mistake. In fact, I didn't realize my mistake just yet. But I knew after this move that he was going to play the move queen to f6, but I didn't see the issue. Queen to f6, and I messed up. I put my king on the right square a little bit too late. King to e3 was the square I needed to be on the move before, but now the only move is king to g3, allowing this and losing a bishop. This is the only way to play for the white pieces. This is the only way to play, because the other way to do it is what I did. I played queen to e3, king to e3. And now my opponent reveals the idea. With 30 seconds on the clock, my opponent plays rook to d8. And now I have nothing. I have pretty much nothing here. I've lost my advantage. I've lost everything. Rook to d8 is a great move, and I think down here from 25 seconds all the way down to, I believe, 3 seconds on the clock, which is a little bit rough, because I do not know where to put my queen. Because what he's threatening, he's going to put the queen here. He's going to come here, and then he's going to mate me somehow, and I'm getting very nervous. I'm getting very, very nervous. I thought that I was just going to lose. I thought I was just going to lose, and I really couldn't lose this game. If I lost this game, I would feel very sad about myself. But with this little amount of time, I don't know what to do. I play queen to g4, and I lose the game on the spot. The move that I have to play is putting the queen on c file. I have to put the queen on c file. Queen to c6 makes a draw. And the point is that after queen to e5, I'm actually, queen to d4, I'm able to go king to f3, and I'm able to escape. So there's actually no threat. And after queen to e5, now it's just perpetual. There's no way to do anything. But after queen to g4, which happened in the game, now queen to c3, and I realize there's nothing I can do. Bring my king up, check. I lose the queen. I bring my king down. I'm simply getting mated. So here, I ran out of time, but I could have resigned. It doesn't really matter. I can sack the bishop, but this also doesn't matter. Nothing matters here. I'm just gonna lose. Yeah, and that's how this game ended, which is a little bit disappointing from a position where I was completely lost, then completely winning. I thought I was gonna win this game, but you know, I guess it's not the time yet. Either way, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all normally YouTubers tell you to do, and yeah, that's it. Good evening and good night.